right? And I think it's kind of sad, of course, that some people just don't learn the lessons. Under his tenure, or during his tenure, or because of him, Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel today is on trial for genocide. These are the people who hail back from the people who went through the Holocaust. Because of Benjamin Netanyahu and his coalition of criminals, Israel today is on trial by the world's court, the International Court of Justice, on genocide. That there is evidence been provided to the court, both material evidence about what is going on in Gaza, and in terms of intent, and in terms of the United Nations agencies. And this is, after all, a United Nations court that basically describe in details the awful situation for the civilians in Palestine, in Gaza, and why Israel has been deliberately targeting civilians, and why the status quo the status quo cannot continue as we see today. And that's why I think it is so important that this be viewed for South Africa as a huge victory, even though it is not an immediate win for the people in Gaza. Because as we said, you and I have been talking about it for a while now, that no matter what the court would have come out with, Israel was not going to abide with it. Now, what we hope is that because now Israel is on trial for genocide, its backers will probably do some self-criticism.
Okay, which brings us on to the UN Security Council, and we've already seen the United States, 3 vetoes so far to not have a ceasefire. How are they likely to respond now? Because there's a lot of pressure, and it's just ramping up on Biden, isn't it, in this election year?
Absolutely. I hope we start with the Europeans and on to the Americans. My sense is that the Europeans are going to be under even more pressure for the time being.
Specifically UK and Germany.
Exactly. And the UK and Germany, if you heard Rishi Sunak just the last couple of days, he's suddenly speaking about an immediate sustainable ceasefire. An immediate but sustainable, right? Can't mix up the two words. Yeah. Look, Biden, it depends whether Biden's going to go the expedient way or the principled way. I mean, the guy is 80 years old. If I were him, I would be writing my will now and go the big way on principle and morality rather than expediency and short-sightedness. He shouldn't be looking now for political future. He should be looking for a place in history. His place in history now for a man who said that we're going to end the forever wars and we're going to put human rights at the center of our foreign policy. That man should be really now considering what does it mean for his main ally that he financed, that he armed, that he protected, that this ally today is on trial for genocide. What does that really mean? Now, the court judges who are not strategists, they're not military strategists, right? The court judges said, apparently in an indirect way, that Israel can fight Hamas without carrying genocide. We can interpret it that way, that Israel can continue to fight Hamas without carrying genocide, and hence it has to take these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 measures voted by a majority of 15-2, 16-1, 16-1, and 15-2. That's a huge majority, suspecting that Israel could be carrying acts of genocide and demanding that it does not do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Right. This is important for the United States to be listening to. And as you know, as you and I have been speaking earlier, it is imperative for the UN Security Council now to be demanding for a ceasefire, because that's the safest way to making sure that those provisional orders are carried out.
So is that the next thing that's going to happen in New York at UNHQ?
You would expect that
call for a ceasefire.
Because any which way, even though this is binding, this rule, and there is no way to to pursue it any further, this is binding. To be executed, it has to go to that executive authority of the world body, the UN Security Council. At the UN Security Council, depending on under which chapter these things are taken, but if there is no veto on the part of the United States, that would send a more applicable, more actionable step on the part of the international community to force Israel to act or to stop fighting. But now we have 3 things happening at the same time, Nick. One, we have Israel on genocide, on trial for genocide. we have the public opinion turning against Israel, and we have a situation in Gaza and in Israel that's not going well to the advantage neither of the Palestinians or for the Israelis. So pressures are building up in all directions.
Interesting. Marwan, thanks for that for the time being. Marwan Bashara.